I am doing a little bit of a continuation of my adventure in the Forbidden Lands with Darthus and Joker. Get this going here. You may notice that there's some sort of background sound, background music. Hopefully it's not too distracting. I thought it might be nice to add a little bit of ambiance. If you're curious about what I'm using this program called Pocket Bard here, which is pretty cool. It's all free, at least the core components. You can sort of shift dynamically between exploration music. I have it on the plains right now. I've added a little bit of location sound, some rain to reflect a little bit of wind to reflect the rain in the story. And you can kind of like shift things dynamically. So hopefully it's not too loud. I tried to set the sound levels beforehand, but yeah. I wanted to just kind of go back to the narrative and show you all a little bit of how the system has been working for me, the one I described in my previous video, which if you haven't watched that, I recommend you go watch that first because it's a big setup for what I'm doing here. But the summary is that I'm using the mechanics, or at least the very basic mechanics right now, for Legend in the Mist as my sort of portable role-playing game system, and then the plot unfolding machines or unfolding machines set of tools, plot unfolding machines companion to log my narrative, and then with a bit of NotebookLM and obviously some image generation, but NotebookLM is sort of like a assistant, solo RPG assistant or consult when I need it. So I want to just show you how that's been going, and a little bit of my playing around with trying to use the unfolding machines to move the plots forward. So as a reminder, where we left off was my characters Darthus and Joker had just been winched down over the Iron Lock, which is this big wall here. There's actually not supposed to be a gate, it's just supposed to be a wall, and they sort of winch you over. There are these guards called the Silent on the top, and they'd just come down, they were walking down the road. We had I ran a little modify a proposal thing here for unfolding machines. So as a reminder of how that works is like if you know in general what's going to be happening next in the next scene, which in my case was that they were just sort of walking down the road, and I could have done a random prompt just to have like a big event happen, but I decided to do the more subtle modifier proposal, which said to increase the intensity and tension. So I then asked, what is the core challenge that we're running into? And it said there were guards or security present. And I asked who, just to give myself a little bit more to work with, and it said someone you relate to or no, and that they're dangerous. Toyed with some ideas in my last video of using an idea NotebookLM had come with that was grounded in Forbidden Lands, but I decided to go forward with my idea that I had come up with, which is totally an option. You can consult with NotebookLM, get some ideas, and either take some of it or just go back to have it as fuel for you to have your own idea. But yeah, I'll say what happened next. Hopefully this is not distracting. I'm trying a lot of new stuff here, so give me feedback if any of this is annoying, and I'll totally tweak it for future videos. But there's the ability in the POM companion to like make these entries be big and sort of more cinematic and scroll in. So I'm going to try to read these while having them get each of these entries get big on the screen. Again, hopefully this isn't too distracting. So let's see what happened here. Darthus and Joker come upon a group of men just as the Iron Lock shrinks in the distance behind them, camped near the rough roadside. Darthus scouts ahead and sees that they have the bearing of a loose military unit, and notice tattered Alderlander military uniforms on some, others appearing as common thugs. He can hear them grousing in the distance that nobody's come through the road for weeks. They appear to shake down and or kidnap folks coming down through the lock or toward it. Darthus returns to Joker and they plan. Despite the two of them being actual Alderland military, they don't think these folks' likely degraded loyalty would allow them much leeway. They decide they need to sneak past. So that's where a sort of stealth came in. So the idea is they ran across this like group of, people that basically turned to banditry. It's a mix of old Alderland military and bandits, and they're going to try to sneak past. So, you know, that was pretty straightforward to me. I mean, I just thought, who would my characters relate to? Who would they know? You know, obviously other Alderlander military, but then why would they be dangerous? And why would we need to sneak past? So then I just did a little, you know, generated image here of, obviously this is dramatized a bit, we wouldn't be this close, but this is us looking at the camp up here of the bandits. The lock is there, iron lock is there back in the distance, deciding what to do. And I also grabbed, this is something I hope to do a little bit, because one thing I really like about Forbidden Lands is that there's like the big map of the Ravenlands. So I kind of like cropped down to a corner here of the iron lock, and I put our little token. I actually did this in the PUM companion. I just loaded in the map and took a little token icon and put it where we were on the map. I'm not, you know, you can take or leave anything that you want from these systems. I'm not really like retaining the survival hex travel mechanic stuff, even though I know it's a signature of Forbidden Lands. Just because for me it's a little bit too fiddly. I don't want to really manage supplies and things like that. The main thing I'm playing this game for is to explore the world of the Forbidden Lands. So this is important to me, though, to kind of like know where I'm at. So now we get to our, I think this might be our first Legend in the Mist check. So maybe I can give a quick walkthrough of what I did here, and for me why this is a relatively straightforward system to use here. Like if you've ever played Iron Sworn or any of those games, you often have to think about like, oh, okay, what move am I using here, or like, you know, how does that adjudicate, what do I need to roll, all these different things. The beauty of the Legend in the Mist system is that you can just kind of look at your character sheet and see what applies. So here, I could have done this a few different ways. I could have had like this be a kind of group check between Darthus and Joker, but I kind of visualized that Darthus is leading, Joker's just following. So this is mostly Darthus's check, and of course he's the one that's most suited toward this sort of thing. So I can look at the character sheet here for Darthus and see that he has... So the way this would work in Legend of the Mist is you basically just look through the tags that you have going on your character, and sorry, this thing keeps coming up with text. Getting used to the controls. You look through the themes that you have on your character, and then for each tag that is applicable to the thing that you're trying to do narratively, you add one. And for each like setback, or if a weakness is invoked, then you minus one. And there's more to it. You can do like, you know, detailed rolls and stuff like that, but I'm just trying to, at least starting out, I'm trying to be simple. So I basically said that, you know, and what you're supposed to do is basically just describe what you're doing. This will also be familiar with people in like Blades in the Dark or whatever, but essentially I'm trying to sneak past the camp, and so obviously like my stealthy step would be important, and I would think it's pretty reasonable to say that his keen senses would be important for him to stay hidden and to kind of like keep an eye out. I could have actually maybe added these tags at the top. I actually probably did these wrong. I think the top is supposed to be the type, like whether it's you know, duty or whatever, but I put the main theme title up here. So this is kind of the broad tag that could apply to a bunch of stuff, like anything that relates to him being an elite field operative, this could apply to. But in this case I didn't use it. I potentially could have, but you know, you can get pretty you know, fiddly with this if you want to cheat yourself, but I think it's good to... There's a whole thing in Legend of the Mist of how to adjudicate whether a tag really applies or not, or whether it's a setup. But right now, I would say if you're going to try the system, just try to be honest with yourself. Only take the tags that really you're like, yes, this would make a meaningful difference in this person trying to accomplish this thing, like knowledge of Alderland, or sure, he knows something about the military, but once you start kind of trying to reach to think like how would this apply in this situation, then you're probably off on the wrong track. So I took Stealthy Step and Keen Senses and said those would help him try to sneak around here. So then you basically just take 2d6 and you adjust based on how many tags gave you bonuses or not. So I had 2 tags that gave me bonuses, so it was 2d6 plus 2. Then unfortunately, as you can see here, I'll make this bigger, I noted, some typos there, but I noted that Stealthy Step, Keen Senses gave him +2, roll of 6, and Darthus failed in his attempt to sneak. Rolled very poorly, a 3 and a 1. So +2, that's 6. The way the Legend of the Mist system works is that 6 or below is a complete failure, 7 to 9 is a success, but with some consequences, and a 10 or more is a complete success with no major consequences. So basically, he failed. So then this just happens narratively, like why would Darthus have failed? And that actually was a place where I got stuck. I was like, okay, this guy's like a master assassin. He's trying to sneak past this camp. How the heck? I'm not going to say he like stepped on a rock and made a noise or something like that. That doesn't really make sense to me. So there was an oracle over here under, I think it was the Scene Oracle, perhaps? It might have been the Plot Oracle, actually. That was Explain How. So there's also Reason Why. There's all kinds of stuff over here. Again, I think one of the skills of using the Unfolding Machines is to learn what the different oracles are that are available to you. But I was just like, how could this be that he failed that? So this one gave me deliberate malicious intent, and then what gave deliberate malicious intent? It says arrival or birth. Obviously birth is not applicable here, but so basically I thought, okay, something is arriving that has malicious intent. So he's trying to sneak, and then all of a sudden something arises or arrives on the scene that has malicious intent. So I thought, what could that be? Well, one idea is that, well, I'll just say what I said here, which is Darthus gestures to Joker to follow his lead and skirt the edge of the camp up against the rocks as the guards appear distracted watching the road. He uses his stealthy steps and keen senses to try to move them both around as the morning light comes up over the east mountains. And then I have another entry here. So I did that, and then I did the sort of query. Since what Darthus didn't realize is that there was a sentry posted in the rocks, so look out above the camp, which just happened to step forward as he and Joker were passing underneath. He immediately calls out to the camp, "Intruders!" as the bored soldiers begin to frantically grab their weapons and look for the threat. So that is what's made sense to me. Darthus is a master assassin, but he's not omniscient. So like up in the rocks, they were sort of sneaking along this cliff line. Up in the rocks was a sentry that they hadn't noticed before, who was out of sight before, but just happened to walk forward, unluckily, as they were trying to sneak below. So now we're in a bad situation, right? I've been seen, and we just... There's a piece here of Legend of the Mist, the normal like flow of things, the way things are supposed to go, is that the narrator normally presents, you know, there's sort of like normal role playing, which we were doing before, but then there's some sort of threat, and the threat is the thing that the narrator presents as this is the threat of what's happening to you, and then the players have to determine, okay, what are we going to do to get past that, to address that threat, or do in the situation, and then what tags will apply. So in this situation, the threat is they've been seen, right? It's really obvious. So I don't even need a dungeon master or a narrator to tell me that. So then I have to think, okay, what would they do? The threat, and if you, in Legend of the Mist, if you could do anything when a threat is presented to you, but if you don't address the threat, then even if you succeed in whatever check you're doing, you might still suffer consequences because the threat was unaddressed. You know, that's all pretty like obvious narrative stuff. So basically, have to address this threat of they've been seen, and the guard, these bandits are obviously trying to get them. So I try to think what could be done. I could have done any number of things. I could have tried to talk to them. I could have tried to, you know, fight them, whatever. But I decided that they would just, since they're like trying to grab their weapons and they weren't exactly ready, that they were just going to try to book it and run. So I'm going to change the music real quick to reflect this intensity. So it'll like hopefully, you know, transition to a little bit more intense combat music. So essentially, this was an example of like, okay, they're running. What can we do to try to? Where are they trying to go? What are they trying to do? And so I decided that they were going to try to just basically make a beeline. They were running. They were already against the stone, so sort of like run past the camp, and just try to like get out of sight as quickly as they can and try to find a place to hide. You know, pretty straightforward. Again, I could have done a number of things, but I'm trying to keep things simple here. So I actually looked up a little bit at like how, you know, when multiple characters are trying to contribute to one check, what you do. And one way that you can do it is that like one of the characters uses their most significant tag as a +1, and then another character can contribute one of their tags as well to give a +1. So what I decided is that Joker, let's see if I can pull up Joker's character sheet here. Joker's history is that he's a regiment commander. You know, even though he's sort of a goofball and a bit jovial, he has a history as a regiment commander. So I probably could have even used this, but so his theme, one of his themes is Darthus' fast friend, and so we have a number of things, but the one that was most applicable here was perfect tactical coordination. So, you know, what's nice about Legend of the Mist system is like if I don't really know what to do or what can happen next, you can always go back to the tags and you can be like, these are the things my characters are defined by, like how does any of their stuff apply to this situation. So it made sense to me that Joker could use his tactical coordination to try to get them out of this situation more effectively, and then Darthus can contribute by using his stealth once they got free of the bandits to hide them. So yeah, that's essentially what I did. So here we have Joker saying, "To me, Darthus, forward, around that ridge." Joker hisses at his companion, using his years as a regiment commander to coordinate a quick plan of escape. So he sort of directs Darthus forward to, all of a sudden he falls into his old military training to move Darthus forward. And next I say, Darthus only snaps off a quick nod and follows Joker forward in a sprint to cover, moving low and quickly, applying his survival instincts of years growing up in the gutters of major cities and fleeing from guards. So I'm reminding myself now, I actually didn't use his stealthy step, because when I was looking at his character sheet, I actually saw something that was more applicable. Part of Darthus' history is that he, you know, grew up an assassin in the sort of gutters of major cities, and in his theme about being an assassin, his origin theme, which is haunted by the guild, his ritualistic training, knowledge of Alderland, another thing that he gained through that training was, aside from horrific flashbacks, which is his weakness, was survival instincts. So, you know, thinking back about his history, I was like, it would make sense that he would have plenty of experience sort of like slipping from people chasing him and trying to figure out how to sort of lose a tail. So the survival instincts was, I thought, what made the most sense there. So I just basically narrated what they were doing, these two people using their skills, and then I did the check. So here we go. I said stealthy steps +1. That should actually be survival instincts. Perfect tactical coordination +1 from Joker. Rolled a 7. So I actually rolled a 1 and a 4. +2 for the tags is 7. And as a reminder, a 7 to a 9 is a success with a consequence. So the duo succeeds in escaping around the ridge and finding a place, a hiding place, but with a complication. So they slip. I wanted to maintain that they succeeded. So they succeeded in getting out of the situation they were in, but there was a complication. So again, here I could have come up with any complication that narratively made sense, but I decided to use the oracles a bit, the PUM oracles, to try to figure out what that complication was. So I went to, again, I gotta figure out which of these oracles. I basically just skimmed through here, and you know, I chose this problem risk, like there's some sort of problem because there's a complication. So I rolled that, and it said betray a value or friend, and the focus is magic or weird. So I thought about this situation in context, like you know, this complication could be to both of them, to either of them, but let's say, like, to Darthus, why would he betray one of his values or friends? I mean, there's plenty of places I could go here. Darthus' values, he has like particular vows about not harming people, so like I could have taken it really extreme that he like killed somebody, which is against his vow. But I wanted to keep it a little bit more simple, that like maybe he had some sort of conflict with Joker, you know, betray a friend, and that. But then the like focus on magic or weird. The way I was actually helped here was because I had already done in NotebookLM a bit of like my setup about the region. Oh, we're out of combat now. I should calm down the music. But and so that had told me that, you know, one of the things that's going around the Iron Lock is like you can already start to smell Zytera's magic, like the smell of rot and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, maybe it would be interesting if Zytera's magic had caused him to kind of like turn against Joker. So that was the consequence, is that this sort of like betrayal happened that was magic infused. So I say, Joker and Darthus find a shadowed niche around the ridge to escape to, and the bandits eventually give up the search. But then Darthus says, but after the enemies clear out, Darthus feels a darkness come over him, the rot of Zytera's magic filling his nostrils. He feels a sudden rage and turns on Joker, rasping, "What was that, you idiot? Can't you keep your head down? The scout clearly didn't see me. What happened to your training?" That's going to hurt my throat if I keep doing that. But essentially the idea, like, you know, he's overcome with rage and turns on his best friend and blames him for what just happened. And so Joker says, "Me? Come on, buddy. I was the one that got us out of that. What the hell's your problem?" So, you know, I could have just done that, but that's not really much of a complication. So one of the neat things, again, in Legend of the Mist is you can take a status for anything. You could take a status for getting cut and get a wounded status, or you can get a bonus that if you're like emboldened or whatever. And again, if that status bears on checks in the future, then it gives you those bonuses. So what I said here is Darthus whirled away and continued his walk north, both now on edge. And so I said here the consequence is that both of them gain the status on edge 1. And so I can see if I can show you what that looks like to apply a status here. But essentially, I think I only added it to Darthus's thing, but this is what it looks like to get a status. So I gave him the status of on edge and a 1. There's a whole system for how statuses increase. If like something else caused Darthus to be even more on edge, or he got shaken, this could increase depending on the severity of the additional one. And once you get to like a 5, you're basically like out of commission. Like if it was, depending on contextually what's going on in the story, like if it was wounded, you might be like basically bleeding out or not able to move. With on edge or shaken, maybe you're like paralyzed in fear, or just, you know, deadened to the world. And 6 is basically like you're done for. You're either dead, you're unconscious, you're basically like lost to the world. Yeah, and then there's lots of ways to remove statuses, but basically it's all done narratively. So I gave them both that. So if anything came up in the future that would require them to be like focused or whatever, that on edge could give them a -1. So that's what I took as the consequence there. And then, yeah, so I updated my little map here to show that they've moved forward a bit to the north, kind of walking forth in silence, trying to move on to find... their main objective here is to come north and find information about the artifact that might defeat Zytera, so they're probably looking for some sort of information or civilization or some sort of lead. Right now they've just only run into trouble, and things are about to get even worse. So they, yeah, they basically, I had no idea right now, right? So I'm like, okay, here I am, there's like a river here, there's some kind of cave. So I could have gone to NotebookLM and I could have said like, okay, they're here. What would a cave be in this area? And it could go plumb the Forbidden Lands knowledge and do that, or, you know, give me some sort of narrative thing. But that's like, you know, if you want to get like deep with it. But I've been trying to rely on the unfolding machines to kind of like drive the narrative forward, and taking those prompts and putting them into NotebookLM to ground it a little bit and not just have it be random. So I decided to, and as I, just as another unfolding machines thing, you'll see earlier, whenever you do a modifier proposal or a random prompt, it's kind of a signal that you're going to be starting a new scene, because this is kind of like a thing is happening. And you can see the narrative track up here is broken down into these different, like, I think they're called plot beats, like different scenes essentially. So we're in the exposition. There's a bunch of like pre-configured plot arcs that you can set for whatever length you want or whatever, but here's the sort of suggestion of the flow of the narrative, that we're going to be in 3 scenes of exposition, then we're going to have some confrontation and resolution. So the first plot beat was that running into the bandits. So once we resolved that, and I was sort of like, okay, scene's resolved, now what? Then you naturally either modify a proposal if you have some idea of what's going to happen next, or you do a random prompt if you just want like something to happen, you don't know what. So I was in that sort of situation. I didn't really know what was going to happen next. I was like, okay, could be anything. Let's just see what the prompt machine throws me. So this is what got thrown to me. Meet or recall a notable character, Empress Soria of Ur. So this basically said, obviously this isn't recall, I've never met this character before, but it's basically like, hey, you're going to meet this character, Empress Soria. This was one of the characters that I had loaded. When you do random prompt, it can pull from either like its own plot tables or any of these elements that you've already set up for your world. And it also can grab from characters. So I had Empress Soria here as a character. Now you can actually like check off in here whether they get called in these things. So I might actually like turn off Zytera here, because I don't want Zytera to just show up in the early part of my story. But Empress Soria was there, so I rolled with it. I was like, okay. So I actually went to NotebookLM. I lost the conversation because this was all yesterday, but I came in here and basically said, okay, I just ran into Empress Soria in like just north of the Iron Lock. Why would that be? So it like gave me some idea of why Empress Soria might be down here, a little bit of her background. And I had a little snippet in here, but not very much, just reminding me who this is. It's an orc leader who's attempting to close the Proto-Nexus using the Stand Gist. Major potential ally or ideological conflict, depending on Darthus' approach to the endgame. So I guess, like, if you wanted to follow the actual story that's in Forbidden Lands, this person is part of the endgame. But I was like, okay, I'm encountering them early. So I asked NotebookLM. And another thing that's really neat that you can do on NotebookLM is I said, only tell me what Darthus or Joker would know about this character. So it told me that she's actually, I don't know if these are maybe minor spoilers for Forbidden Lands if you want to know about Empress Soria. So skip ahead if you don't. But I'm not going to go into extreme detail. Just basically what it told me my characters would know is that there's a rumor that she's actually... So she leads this like whole clan of orcs here. She's got like green skin and stuff. But there's a rumor that she's actually a human working for Alderland to sort of infiltrate the orcs. And she's raised up to be sort of their leader. So interestingly, it said we would probably know that. We've probably heard of her and know that she might be a spy. But that she's actually super skeptical, of course, of anybody, and especially of people coming from Alderland, because if she all of a sudden sees like Alderlander spies up here, she's going to like worry that her cover's going to be blown, etc., etc. So given this whole thing of like what she might be about and how she might fit in, and that was like really good contextual narrative for me of like what I could do with this person. And then I asked it to, this is kind of an approximation, I did this yesterday, but I asked it to generate a Legend of the Mist challenge profile for her. So it sort of like gives me her challenge rating, her might, her attributes, her limits. So these would be the things that you could do to try to surpass her, either by like trying to convince, threaten, or harm her. Some of her tags, and then weaknesses and special features. And then here are her threats that it's recommended, like things she might do because like the narrator can apply threats, or challenges like Empress Soria or any sort of challenge can apply threats to you as well. So like it suggested here, like confrontation threat. Soria carefully draws her guard forward to meet the heroes, and their consequences that they're blocked. They can't proceed further until she's addressed or overcome. So it provided some options for like what she might do to me. So I thought it would make complete sense that if she ran into my character, she would probably stop them and try to like shake them down for information. And then an interesting thing it said here, I think it said it earlier, is that she had like a status of suspicious -3, or I don't remember where it was, but, and again, this is an approximation of yesterday's, but it basically said that she had a status of suspicious -3, and so that meant in any interactions with her, she was going to apply that -3 status to us if I was trying to convince her of something. So that's all to say, I came in with that knowledge, and I basically was like, okay, so she's basically there doing something down here in the Iron Lock. She's obviously going to try to stop us. Oh, this is actually part of what gave me this whole thing. I fed this into Notebook. I forgot this. I actually had no idea why she might be here. So I was like, okay, if I'm running into her, what is her reaction? So meet, and then there's like a meet reaction over here. Like what is the person's reaction to meeting you? It's over here in the scene, and it says feel threatened, showing concern or fear toward you. And so I fed that into NotebookLM, and that's where it said like, yeah, she might be concerned about you, you know, blowing her cover. So here we go. So I used all that information to then basically say this. After a long silent trudge northward, as the sun rises in the sky, the pair comes across a rise, and once they reach the edge, they see a path downward to a river crossing, with a cave visible in the distance. They see a large green-skinned woman traveling with what appears to be an honor guard of orcs. One of the guard immediately spots the two of them and points in their direction to the woman. Darthus recognizes this person as likely Soria, leader of the orcs, who he knows may actually be a human spy for Alderland. He's only heard rumors, but knows she's not someone to be trifled with. He whispers as much to Joker, breaking their silence with each other out of necessity as Soria moves toward them. So that's the scene, the setup, and yeah, I basically, you know, had this set up already that she was going to try to like block their passage. So halt, Soria calls as she carefully draws her guard forward to meet them. She looks them both over, and it's clear she recognizes them for Alderlanders. Who are you, and what are you doing out here by the Iron Lock? Give me one good reason I shouldn't have my guard clap you in irons, or even better, cut you down where you stand. So, not a very friendly, you know, introduction to us, but, you know, that all came through her feeling threatened, all this stuff. So I had a pretty strong sense of what was going to happen. Oh, and by the way, when I did the random prompt, this seemed like a very significant scene. So whenever you make the determination that it's significant, you can label it as a plot beat, and it sort of triggered that we were in this, that we were moving the narration forward. So I just noted this to myself. I was like, okay, so we've been stopped by Empress Soria. She doesn't trust us. We basically, there's almost no sure way that we could fight our way out of this situation against her and an honor guard. So we're gonna have to like talk our way out. So I was like, okay, who would make sense to have this conversation with her? Darthus or Joker? So Darthus is my main character, so I first looked at him and I was like, okay, what can you do? Can you do anything useful in this situation? And looking at his tags, I pretty quickly realized that no, he has like, you know, a royal mandate. One of the main reasons she's concerned about us is our relationships to Alderland, so that's not helpful. He's stealthy. He's like has an unsettling scarred eye and dark and brooding. He attracts suspicion. He's like haunted by the killed assassin. That's all cool stuff to me, but none of that's going to help me get out of a talk through a situation with Soria, I thought. So I was like, okay, Joker needs to talk. Joker's the like friendlier talker anyway. So I looked at Joker's statuses, and what we had here was basically not a lot on the talking, actually. Like Pill of Moral Support, a bunch of stuff about the Royal Mandate as well, Formidable Weapons Master. The closest was his jovial disposition. You know, he's a likable person, he's funny, etc. So knows people's happiness. I didn't think that would be too applicable here. Life of the party. I don't think Soria was trying to have a party, but I think I came up with that, like, his jovial disposition, and maybe I gave him a little bit of credit here that, like, knowing people's happiness might help him sort of get on Soria's good side. But then I realized he has this weakness here. Austere people don't trust him. Soria Prime seems pretty austere to me. I did have this prefers blade to diplomacy, which could also have gone in if he just was like, screw this, we're going to fight. But I thought he was not stupid enough to try to challenge this whole group. So yeah, what I basically said is he probably would have 2 statuses that would help him here, and 1 that would go against him. The austere people don't trust him. So not great. A +1, and then as a reminder, there was a -3 status from Soria feeling, suspicious and stuff. That was what NotebookLM said. You could, do whatever you want there in terms of the level of suspicion you think Soria would have, but you can see how that, then you throw all this into a mixer. Joker's like a pleasant, fun-loving, friendly guy. That's how he's probably going to try to approach this conversation, but he may be a little bit too loose for somebody that's trying to be serious, and he's talking to somebody who's very suspicious of him, so that all factors into this die roll. So basically, I think maybe I had a third thing on him. Oh, here we go. So yeah, I gave him jovial disposition, apparently life of the party. I think that was honestly a bit of a stretch, but I was trying to give myself something here. Knows people's happiness, and -1 austere. And then, yeah, -1 austere, people don't trust him, for a +2. And then Soria has a status of -3 threatened, which makes for -1 overall. So I did my roll, and things go from bad to worse. He rolled a 6 and a 1, -1, which is 6, which is a failure. So, okay, so basically, you envision the threat was Soria saying, stop, explain yourself. The threat is we need to explain ourselves or get ourselves out of the situation, or she's obviously going to take some sort of action. So the action on Joker's part was to try to talk her down with all this stuff. And now we know what happened. So then we just roleplay it out. This would be the exact same as if you were doing Legend of the Mist with the GM. So I didn't say what he actually said, but he basically, I think I wrote it down. Oh, here we did. Never mind, I'm kind of jumping around. Joker moves forward with open arms and a broad smile on his face, saying, "Oh, mighty orcish leader, we are but simple travelers, cast away due to ill fate from our home of Alderland, lost, tired, and looking for the closest warm fire and hot meal. Might you be able to point us in the right direction? We'll be out of your hair, lickety-split," with a wink. Darthus' slight groan from behind him is almost inaudible, but not quite. So a little bit too cheesy, a little bit too, slick with her. And so then I said, at first, Soria begins to smile, her mouth going into a big pinched grin, and Joker turns to look back with a wink at Darthus before she emits a huge bellowing laugh holding her belly. "Do you take me for a fool? Travelers dressed in full military gear with the bearing of Alderland special operatives, clear as day. Guard, clap them in irons and throw them in the wagon. They're coming with us, once we're done here," and turns away as the guards relieve the pair of their gear and drag them back to the wagon. So, I mean, to me, she's suspicious of us. She's blocking us. Joker basically fumbles a way of trying to convince her that we're not a threat. And so, yeah, it would seem reasonable to me that she would clap us in irons and throw us in the wagon. So this is not where I was hoping for my journey to go, but this is where we ended up. So I did a little kind of thing here for this of us getting clapped in irons and thrown into the wagons by Soria. And that's where my story's at currently. This is a point where I kind of went back to NotebookLM and said, okay, I definitely want to use the events in unfolding machines to kind of move the story forward and see what happens maybe on their trek back. I was thinking maybe we could try to talk to Soria to try to realize that we're on the same side, and maybe she'd let us go, or maybe I'll go all the way back with her, because I said, where would she be, given that Soria has chained Darthus and Joker, where would she likely be taking them? And it says, given that she has chained them, her most likely destination for the prisoners is the Eye of the Rose, the fortress where Soria holds court and maintains her operational base. Then it gives me a bit of context here of what might happen to us back there. None of it's nice. And then I just asked some questions like, where's the Eye of the Rose located? I asked it eventually for a challenge profile for the Legend of the Mist system. And it actually took, so you could go any direction at this point. I now know that I've been taking to the Eye of the Rose, which is actually one of the locations that had been pre-populated in my location list here, Eye of the Rose Fortress. But at this point, if you're the type of person that really wants to like dive into the lore and stuff, I pulled up the Ravenspurge book, and it's like there's a whole adventure site here for Eye of the Rose. So I could, you know, read this if I wanted and kind of brief myself and think how like the various things fit with what's happening to me right now, and have a whole little adventure at the Eye of the Rose if I wanted. I personally like don't want to spoil stuff for myself, so I don't know. I might skim through it or glance through it, but I tried to have Legend in the Mist instead, or sorry, NotebookLM. Kind of, since I knew it was an adventure site, that means I know that there's a bunch of information in here, and so I tried to have NotebookLM kind of parse it out for me without having me spoil it for myself. So I said, you know, okay, set up the Eye of the Rose adventure site for use in my solo RPG adventure. Let's say if Soria is taking us there on the wagon using Legend of the Mist system. And so it made up a sort of challenge profile for the wagon journey and for the Eye of the Rose. So there's a whole separate system in Legend of the Mist for you, how you handle like journeys and things like that. So it gave me a little bit of rundown of the, you know, what stakes there are, notable features, some ideas for the wagon journey itself. What are some of the stakes there? Some things that could happen, vignette threats. I could come back to this if I discover a threat through the unfolding machine. And then it has like notable locations that it's sort of summarized for me from Eye of the Rose, the fortress gates, the library, all these different things, and then key challenges that might exist there. So I could pick and choose from any of this stuff that might be relevant, or I could dive into the book itself. What I like about this is it just gives me a hint, like, oh, there's this thing Iridine that's like Ascension Elven Ruby within the Bloodstar. It's like, okay, is that interesting to me? Maybe I dive deeper. Or I could ignore all this and just go back to the unfolding machines. So I think this has been a long video, but I think hopefully this has been helpful, at least for how I'm merging these things together. So far, I mean, I've run into a couple bumps. You know, there's some wiggle room of like, how much do you want to use NotebookLM? How much do you want to rely on the unfolding machines? I'm pretty happy so far with the Legend in the Mist systems, kind of adjudicating the narrative. It's got enough that I'm like working in stuff from my characters. There's a lot more Legend in the Mist rules that I could work in if I become more comfortable with it. Like you could do like a reaction if a consequence. So for example, when the consequence happened with us getting seen or whatever, you can have a reaction to try to mitigate it with another roll. But yeah, I think that's enough. I'll leave it here for today, and hopefully this is interesting. Again, let me know feedback on the video itself, if this format was enjoyable to watch, the background music was too loud, thoughts you have on this process, pros and cons. Look forward to hearing from you, and talk to you all later.